Hi, I'm Randy Robison. I am with Craig Groeschel, who is the founder and lead pastor of Life Church, which I'm sure you've heard of if you keep up with the church industry at all, because it's cutting edge and huge. In fact, anywhere from 70,000 to 112,000 on an Easter weekend people are at Life Church watching from a campus around the country and involved. And Craig's really just done some very interesting, innovative things with technology to spread the gospel. Glad to see you again, man.
Yeah, thank you, Randy. Glad to be back with you.
So, there's so many questions, but what is there a secret to the success that you have? Is there any? How do you boil that down?
Well, I would never try to take credit for it or tell you here's the secret, but I will tell you what I think happened early on is that the first weekend we met, there were just a few people in a little two-car garage, and I decided to go ahead and do an invitation to see if people would follow Christ. And I looked down there thinking there's hardly anybody here, nobody's going to respond to this. And we saw 7 people on the first day, which was 7 more than I expected.
Wow.
And there really from the very, very beginning was this sense of an expectation. If I bring people that are not followers of Christ, that God might do something in their life. And so, we were talking before the interview that, in one of our campuses, a lot of church people came and they didn't really stick. What we tend to find more success is people who aren't really, maybe they're not opposed to God, but they're also not connected to any type of church.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing a lot of those people come in, and when someone does give their lives to Christ, then they typically have a lot of other friends that weren't Jesus followers either, and so they get excited and bring them in. So I think that's one of the reasons we've been able to see kind of explosive growth, is because we see a tremendously high rate of people coming to know Christ. And so, I think that's really the power behind it, is people really believe if I get someone here this weekend, something spiritual might happen in their lives.
Yeah, and knowing that, I know when a new church pops up in the neighborhood, I know the other pastors talk, and sometimes there's a little bit of uh-oh. Right, because they don't want to lose their congregation, and they think the pushing thing. But how do you? Is it the way you preach or the way your structure is that maybe lets the church hoppers kind of blow through and really get into expanding the kingdom by reaching the lost?
Yeah, I don't know if it's the way I preach, because I think there are a lot of people that preach. There are a lot of people that preach way, 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 way better than I do. I think in some ways it's the way we lead, kind of behind the scenes culturally, is if you've been at the church for a couple of years, you really know why we do what we do. You tend to believe in it, or you don't stay. And the philosophy is really quite different than most places. It really is. It's very, very different. And so you either, if you're exposed to it the first time, you might really like it. If you've been raised in a more traditional church, you might say, I actually really prefer the traditional church.
Yeah.
And so it sets well with people that maybe wouldn't be reached by a more typical type of church.
So what is that philosophy?
Well, there's so many things. One of the things is we don't do what every other church does. Over and over again, we don't have a men's ministry, women's ministry, single adult ministry, choir. We don't do church conferences. We don't do marriage conferences, retreats. We don't do all this kind of stuff that other churches do. And those things are really effective and important, and churches should do them. But we, for the most part, do 5 things. We do weekend worship services, and we do small groups. If you're coming, it's very likely you're going to be involved in a small group community, which is very important. We do kids ministry. We do student ministry. We pour all our resources we can into reaching the emerging generations. And then we do missions, partnering, generosity ministries. And so because we don't do all these other things, then we're able to do things other churches can't do. We created the YouVersion Bible app. If we had all those other ministries, we wouldn't have the resources to be able to create the YouVersion Bible app. We're able to give our resources away free to literally 130,000 churches last year to use free resources. I'm able to staff a full team of people who serve other churches. Well, if I had them doing all the other normal church jobs, they wouldn't be able to do that. So we say to reach people no one's reaching, we have to do things no one's doing. Yeah. But to do things no one's doing, we can't do what everybody else is doing. And so it's a real different philosophy of how to do church. It's not better, it's not right, it's just different.
Yeah, I've always found when people start talking about style or things like that, because the church I'm a part of doesn't do certain things that other churches like Gateway, which does a phenomenal job,
Right.
that they do very well.
Right.
And I've always thought, people are so different that if there was a right way to do the church and there was only one
Exactly.
right way, you'd miss a lot of people. And so I see different pastors called to do things a little differently to reach different people.
Absolutely. Gateway is going to reach a ton of people with kind of, I'd call almost like hooks in the water, that with a different kind of bait that are going to attract all sorts of people that we're not going to attract.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the simplicity of what we do is going to impact some lives. And we're going to be a little more focused in some areas and be able to reach some people that other churches couldn't. And so, we need all kinds. And I think the key is in leadership to really understand why you're doing what you're doing, to really believe in it. If you don't, you're wasting everybody's time. And then, really kind of be who God created you to be as a church without apology.
It gets down to obedience over formula.
Yes, that's a great way to say it. Yeah.
Why is the technology a big thing with you?
Well, yeah, I think any Jesus follower should recognize that the world we live in, we've got opportunities that were not available 5 years ago, 10 years ago, certainly 20 years ago. And so, we like to say we're going to leverage and redeem technology to spread the gospel. We're going to use it every way we can. Some of the ways we do it, we're one of the first churches to use video teaching. Now we satellite out our messages. We give our messages away to 100 or so other churches that just take them for free, and they use our messages every single weekend. So we leverage it, it's free. Wow. We give all of the resources we can away, literally by the millions to churches, free. We couldn't afford to do that without technology. If I had to, box up a tape and mail it across the country, and so we give it away for free. It still costs us some, but we can afford to give it away for free. We created the world's first church online that reaches a lot of people in every country and territory in the world. Every single week is touched by it.
Okay, some people, they just heard that phrase and thought, no, there's no such thing.
Yeah, there's absolutely such thing. And people argue all day long against it, and they probably never experienced it. And there's actually often, Randy, more genuine community oftentimes that happens at church online than what happens in a real physical lobby of a campus.
How so?
There's worship, there's teaching of the word, there's a presence of God when 2 or 3 gather. We don't have to be in the same place to gather, I believe, in the Spirit. No. And we have a live language translation. So if you're speaking in Spanish, you type in Spanish on your computer. There's a chat. People are literally chatting during the message. They're asking questions. You can't do that at church. They're praying for each other. You go in any big church online service and someone's going to say, I'm thinking about taking my life. My husband just left me. They're talking about stuff that, quite honestly, doesn't happen in a physical church building, because you tend to walk in, you say hi, you put on the church face, you walk out. And so there's really deep ministry that takes place. And we're able to go into places that it's quite hard to take the gospel, in countries all over the world. In Muslim-dominated countries, we have a very high percentage of people that log on to church online. Wow. So anyway, all that to say is we're going to leverage technology. The YouVersion Bible app, our church is created by the local church, given to the world as a free gift.
I use it.
And I'm glad. I hope everybody does. And we focus on engagement. Like just last month, we had a record number of Bible plans completed. We had 1.9 million Bible plans completed in a month, not started, but
1.9 million completed in a month.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
That's over double what we had the same month last year. So that shows the engagement growth. And so the app's not just on devices, but we're seeing people engage in them, which is the big goal. So we'll do anything short of sin. We're going to leverage technology to try to get the message out. And churches and ministries are doing that all over the world. And I think we're always wise to try to take whatever tool is current to our generation and use it however we can.
Absolutely. At the same time, you've got a new book out called hashtag struggles.
Yes.
About some of the potential dangers.
Yes.
What are you trying to communicate there?
Yeah. Well, I've got I got my phone with me. It's close by, and there's so many benefits to technology and social media, and there are so many unintended negative consequences as well. And so we get into a lot of them in the book. One of them is just the reality that, you'll see a family of 4 out having dinner, and the whole time, this is what all 4 of them are doing.
You're talking about me and my family?
Yeah,
Because I've experienced that.
Yeah, no, and my passion for this was born out of my wife, Amy, saying, you gotta put the phone down. You gotta put the phone down, and recognizing that, I was a slave to it rather than it being a servant to me. And so I really get into there's a lot of great studies out there. We're still kind of new into how does social media impact us relationally, but I go into a lot of detailed studies in the books about how it's changing the way people relate, how a younger generation really fears and avoids unfiltered communication because they're used to being in control with texting. And so if the phone rings, they'll let it go straight to voicemail, listen to it, and respond with a text because there's a generation that's now afraid to have conversations because they don't know, because they can't be in control of them. And there's a lot of it, I could go into all sorts of details about how it's changing the way we relate to each other in many ways for the good, but in some of the ways for the bad. Right.
Yeah, all good stuff, all important stuff, and probably more than we could spend programs on this. In fact, you'll have a couple of programs to talk about this.
Yes.
On Life Today, the broadcast show. You can catch that at lifetoday.org. And what's the URL you want to send people to for your church?
Well, lifechurch.tv works, and then the publishers just built a new website called CraigGroeschelBooks.com. If they want to find that book or any of the other books there, they can find them.
Great. Check it out.
Yeah.
Check him out when he's on the broadcast show, and we always appreciate what you're doing and taking the time to stop by here and not just text us what's going on, but tell us.
Yeah, well, and thank you to you guys, because my wife in particular has, we have an offering budget, and every year your ministry is at the top of the list of places that
Well, thank you. We
that we love to
your
support, and she controls that budget, and she picks you first, and so it's great to have someone that we believe in with integrity that gets so much done in places that we'll never go to, and so we're honored to partner with you guys in that way.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.